Now we look to the Florida skies again. This time we have lots of witnesses. And thankfully, one was a loyal viewer who sent us his own video. February 9th, 2021, southern Florida. Stuart Eck is on the road when a flash of light makes him pull over. It's not the police, it's this.
Oh my goodness. Awesome, it's sunrise.
A large white plume unfurls across the sky, growing larger and larger. He's not frightened, but he is amazed.
You see the shockwave go out? Oh, wow, awesome!
I looked over and it was a giant flame in the sky.
Take another look. As the light passes over Stuart, it leaves behind a massive trail.
It ballooned out like it was exploding or something very different was going on. And it was one of the most incredible things I've ever seen in my life.
Not everyone Stuart talked to was as smitten with the object.
Unbelievable!
It scared a lot of people to death, thinking it was some type of weapon coming in from outer space.
Florida is a UFO hotspot. It's actually second only to California. There have been 7,000 sightings of UFOs in Florida since 1998.
But UFOs are consistently reported to fly without leaving visible exhaust or contrails. And there's another theory, a very human, high-tech weapon reported to leave a distinctive exhaust trail. The Chinese military already claims to have developed something called a hypersonic missile. As the name suggests, it travels at 5 times the speed of sound at low altitude. That's a game changer because such a weapon could make it from the human missile silos in central China to Washington, D.C., evading radar and existing air defense systems until it is already well over U.S. airspace. And American nuclear submarines reportedly now have their own hypersonic missile, dubbed the Sea Dragon. So that might be what Stuart witnessed. Another theory? This is some new rocket being developed by a space entrepreneur like Elon Musk. Notice how both this 2017 SpaceX launch and the one in Stuart's video have glowing contrails due to an effect you may have seen in an earlier episode about a suspected Chinese rocket. While it's dark on the ground, the rocket and its contrails are high up enough to be illuminated by the sun, even though it's over the horizon. But exactly what sort of rocket, missile, or other craft could be creating the huge exhaust trail in Stuart's video is a mystery. SpaceX's Falcon 9 has become the most flown operational U.S. rocket, reaching orbit 24 times in 2020. So could this be another Elon Musk venture, or is there something else more troubling going on? First, astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio considers if this could be a jet going supersonic.
When the jet approaches the sound barrier, you'll see a condensation front along the front of the jet.
In moist air, a speeding plane creates low-pressure areas where water condenses in a vapor cone. As the plane speeds up, the cloud moves down the body. And when the plane breaks through the sound barrier, it outraces the water droplets and the cone disappears.
What we're seeing here, though, is a continuous plume that's persistent. So this is definitely not a supersonic jet.
Our aviation expert, Tim McMillan, thinks he can narrow it down further.
That teardrop shape and that contrail there, that is characteristic of some type of rocket or potentially a missile test.
But when McMillan checks the SpaceX launch schedule, he rules out any Elon Musk-related UFOs. So could this be a new weapons system, like the Sea Dragon?
The U.S. is just now kind of getting into the hypersonics game and trying to develop more operational hypersonic platforms.
When D'Antonio digs deeper, he finds the U.S. military had tested submarine-launched missiles in the area that day. But the military won't say what exactly was launched.
If it was a missile test of some kind, it's probably a missile that they don't want you to know about.
Despite the strange appearance, we're calling this one a rocket or missile launch. But what rocket or missile, we may never know. What's clear is that the U.S. is in a race to develop unstoppable hypersonic missiles. So we may be witnessing one of the very first tests. February 2022, Alta, Norway. It's a clear afternoon in this quiet town 240 miles north of the Arctic Circle. A man is sitting in his car when he spots something unusual moving on the horizon and decides to record it. A bright white object is streaking across the sky. But take a closer look. It appears to be circular on one end with a small pointed tail on the other. Then, just a few miles away, a car dash cam also captures the strange white anomaly. While some may believe this is a UFO, according to journalist MJ Banias, this sighting has the hallmarks of an unusual 50-year-old event known as the Great Daylight Fireball.
In August of 1972, people reported seeing a very large, bright fireball in the sky. Many speculated that it was some sort of comet or meteorite or perhaps a piece of space debris that entered Earth's atmosphere.
But Banias also notes a key difference.
The fireball in the Utah incident left a long contrail. The tail of whatever this object is quite short. It doesn't leave a line of smoke behind it.
And that clue has led observers to another theory.
Norway is home to the Andoya Test Center, which is used by multiple countries to launch and test various new weapons and missiles that are in development.
But some fear it's a test from a far more hostile actor.
The Russians have made the claim that they actually used a hypersonic missile to take out a Ukrainian arms depot in March 2022. But there's no verifiable intelligence that confirms it.
Hypersonic missiles are a breakthrough technology that travel very fast and very low, making them nearly impossible to detect until they're about to hit their targets. Might the Russians have been testing one nearby? Now, supersonic means faster than the speed of sound, which is 761 miles per hour at sea level. But hypersonic? That is 5 times faster, over 3,800 miles per hour. What could be traveling that fast? Are we seeing leftovers from the formation of our solar system? Or possibly the latest game-changing military technology? Let's see what our experts have to say. We begin with video forensic analyst Michael Primo. Is this video even legit?
When authenticating evidence, the most reliable approach is to collect a known sample from the device and perform what's called a CRP test to make determinations about whether or not that particular video came from that particular device. I requested a reference sample be provided from the operator, and we were able to verify that the video can be considered authentic.
If it's real, then what could it be?
I think we're not looking at any kind of aircraft, whether it be commercial or any type of passenger aircraft, or drone or military, just traveling too fast. But also, there's obviously no discernible features. There's no wings, there's no tail section.
So if it's not a terrestrial craft, is it from space?
If, let's say, there was a satellite re-entering the Earth's atmosphere because it was defunct and no longer operational, you might see a breakup.
Today, there are about 5,000 satellites orbiting the Earth, and it's estimated about 300 objects in orbit fall back to Earth and burn up each year. But D'Antonio doesn't see one telltale sign in the video.
There's so many appendages. Solar panels, satellite would be basically leaving parts behind through the entire process of re-entry. You would see a long trail of debris as it was re-entering the Earth's atmosphere.
But satellites aren't the only things that fall to Earth. Could we be seeing an event like the Great Daylight Fireball in 1972?
It's a very flat trajectory that, to me, is consistent with a hypersonic missile. In particular, the speed, the fact that it is moving within the Earth's atmosphere, it is traveling in a straight line, all consistent with a hypersonic missile.
There are 2 main types of hypersonic missiles. Hypersonic cruise missiles, which are boosted by a rocket to hypersonic speed, and then use an air-breathing engine called a scramjet to sustain that speed. And hypersonic gliding vehicles, which are launched from a rocket, but then glide into their target. If that's what this is, it's a rare video of a new and deadly weapon.
Another clue is towards the end of the video when you see that separation. It appears to be using a booster to make it travel extremely fast. But I did searches and was unable to find any recognized or declared hypersonic missile test, or frankly, any missile test in the area. So if we're looking at a missile test, we're looking at something that was done in secret.
Our verdict? We're going with hypersonic missile test. We think McMillan's observations are a close match to what we see in the visual evidence. But for sure, there are some lingering questions that need answering. Like, who fired it? Us or them? With the political situation in the world today, there doesn't seem to be any doubt this is something we're going to be seeing a lot more of. It's September of 2018, and residents of Southeast Asia are bracing for a megastorm, a super typhoon. Winds up to 180 miles per hour blast through the region as social media is flooded with images of the damage. One video, said to be from the Shenzhen province of China, is particularly alarming. Watch as this commercial airliner attempts to land as it fights extremely heavy crosswinds. It seems to almost tip over, then it does a complete flip. But just as it seems like it may crash, the pilot appears to regain control. The footage quickly goes viral as it triggers many people's worst fears of flying. But watch again. A number of things seem off about this footage, not least of which are the supposed typhoon conditions.
Certainly the winds are strong, but it doesn't look like there's any rain or even a ton of cloud cover.
Planes land in tough crosswinds all the time. What you're seeing here are all verified incidents.
The most dangerous part of flying a plane is takeoff and landing. That's when you're going to encounter things like crosswinds or wind shears that can really affect how you come in or how you take off. But I've never seen a passenger plane do a full barrel roll like this.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I could watch this video over and over again. It's that wild. But many people online thought it was real. So we decided to track down the original source of this footage to get the real story. The creator of this clip is Minnie Sirbis, a filmmaker in Los Angeles.
So this video was 100% CGI, a CG plane, fence, sky, everything.
But here's the thing. Minnie never claimed the video was real. That was someone else.
Somebody stole my footage. When the video went viral, it wasn't through my YouTube channel. It was through somebody else's Facebook post. And I only learned about it after it got millions of views.
So clearly, many people were duped. But still, could an airliner flip like this in real life?
Commercial planes, they're not designed to do barrel rolls and things that you might see from military jets. As the plane goes through these rolls, it appears to successfully recover off camera. That really wouldn't be consistent with what we would see in a commercial plane. You're going to lose any propulsion that you have at this point because you have a catastrophic shift in this plane that is designed not to do this.
Just to be certain, we asked physicist Hakeem Oluseyi if any kind of weather system could cause a plane to flip, like in this video.
A plane maintains its lift via the headwind, right? It's the relative speed of the plane going into the wind. And if there is a crosswind, then that will be perpendicular to the headwind. So it would act independently. So it could shift the plane side to side independently of the forward-back motion. But now there's also a twist. There's also a rotational motion, which is also independent. So that's why the ideal wind to create something like this is a fast headwind with a tornado going around it in this way.
That kind of wind would leave a trail of destruction. But look, in the video, the fence and tower are intact and undisturbed. So, our verdict? There's no question. This is a hoax. Minnie told us he still has no idea who passed off his CGI project as real or why. But you can be sure that when we see stuff like this, we'll be sure to call it out. May 4th, 2020. It's a clear night in Linwood, Washington, just north of Seattle. College student Dafa Azizan is out for an evening stroll when he looks to the stars and sees this. At first glance, it looks like a streaking comet or maybe a shooting star.
What the hell is that? It's moving.
But look closely. It's not burning up in the atmosphere, and it doesn't appear to be a single object. Instead, it's Minnie and flying in formation.
I started to panic because it looked like a string of stars moving together. And immediately I thought this could be a spacecraft from another part of our galaxy.
If this is a fleet of alien spacecraft over the skies of Washington, it wouldn't be the first time. In fact, journalist MJ Benaya says this area is home to one of the most historic UFO sightings of all time.
In 1947, Kenneth Arnold was flying over Mount Rainier in Washington, and he reported 9 sort of like boomerang-shaped objects flying through the mountains. It was splashed across newspapers, and it's the incident that allowed journalists to coin the term flying saucer.
Although there is a possibility these are alien spaceships, Banias also says the location of this video may provide another not-so-out-of-this-world explanation.
Washington State is home to several aircraft manufacturers, and the largest being Boeing. And Phantom Works is Boeing's top secret experimental arm of the company. Phantom Works is very much shrouded in secrecy.
Among the known programs at Phantom Works are miniature satellites constructed for the government.
Cube satellites are low power, very small mini satellites that are placed into a low Earth orbit. It could be for telecommunications work. It could be for surveillance. We don't really know. But CubeSat technology is pretty new, and they often work together as a sort of swarm or a collective. Did this gentleman record it on video? That remains to be seen.
So what do we have here? Aliens? Experimental tech from Boeing like this X-45 combat drone? If the Phantom Works program is engaged in some sort of classified technology, that could be very difficult to verify. But our experts are up to the task. Aviation expert Tim McMillan starts us off.
So could it be commercial aircraft or military aircraft, any type of fixed-wing airplane? We're looking at this perfectly straight line. Military conventional wisdom, you don't do that. I think a lot of people have seen aircraft that are in V formations, or they're offset, they're spread out. These are all going straight. They're at near mid-air collision. It's not a smart way that anybody's gonna fly.
If these aren't aircraft, could they be drones? And not just any drones. One of the latest weapons in military use are loitering munitions, otherwise known as suicide or kamikaze drones. They're used to target both personnel and armor, and depending on size, can hover for a few minutes or several hours. So could this be a drone test? McMillan isn't so sure.
If they were a military testing drone swarm technology, this would not be consistent with how you would employ them. Also, classified testing is done in very secure locations. You just don't fly your secret stuff. Overpopulated areas.
So what are we seeing? Dafa Azizan's first thought was UFOs. Could he be right? We asked astronomer and video effects designer Mark D'Antonio.
The option that this is a UFO, these are always on the table. But let's consider what we're looking at here. One of the things you notice is that they're moving in unison. That means, from an astronomical point of view and from an orbital mechanics point of view, that these are all objects moving in Earth orbit at the same speed and relatively same altitude.
For D'Antonio, that relative motion is key to solving this mystery. He thinks they might be a brainchild of Elon Musk, a project called Starlink. It's a global network of satellites providing internet coverage from space. Much larger than Cube satellites, Starlinks are about the size of a table and weigh about 575 pounds. The network requires thousands of satellites near enough to each other to provide simultaneous global internet coverage. They're launched 60 at a time and form a line that appears like a streak in the initial days after liftoff, which is actually a parking orbit at around 270 miles above the Earth. Then, their solar panels unfurl, and over the course of 3 to 4 months, each one spreads out to an even higher orbit of about 350 miles. Today, there are more than 2,000 in low Earth orbit.
The Starlink program is the only one that actually does this type of launch behavior that we see here. You can figure out just from a quick search which Starlink launch it was.
In fact, D'Antonio checked the Starlink launch schedule and confirmed that satellites were rocketed into orbit 12 days prior to the recording of this video.
So when people look at this, they can be forgiven for thinking that the aliens have now started to land.
Our verdict, Starlink satellites. But while these orbiting objects don't represent an alien menace, they might be a threat nevertheless. Astronomers have raised concerns about their effect on ground-based astronomy and how the satellites will add to an already congested orbital environment.